You know, throughout the course of my life, I've heard from people who know far more than I do about life that a person is the sum total of what he believes. Or a man is the sum total of his beliefs. Something like that. If a man is the sum total of his beliefs and you are dealing with someone who does not know who they are, what does that tell you? I'll tell you what it tells me is that this person does not know what they believe. And why would somebody not know what they believe when there are so many things out there to believe? Well, I think I know the answer to that too. I think it's because they have been too willing to believe too many things and yet lack the power to discern and lack the power to delineate one thing from another. They're too willing to accept everything that gets brought to the forefront. They are not willing to stand up to the challenge of questioning a belief system, a report, an opinion, and so therefore they just take everything in, and before you know it, they lose their identity. And I really believe that's what goes on with people who do not know themselves. Now, I don't know that many people who would actually claim that they don't know themselves, at least not out loud. I do think that there's plenty of people who could admit that to themselves, you know, within their own minds, quietly admit that I don't know who I am. So what you believe is very important, but how you handle encounters with belief systems is even more important, because if you sway and tip with every wave that comes your way, you will eventually lose your identity. And I think that this particular video is very important for younger people. Perhaps because it's maybe I think somewhere down deep inside me that old dogs can't learn new tricks, and therefore it's no use. But I don't think I believe that. But I am speaking as though this is something I am bequeathing to my children, because after all, that's what I make videos for anyway. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what my videos are about, is leaving something to my children, so that if anything ever happens to me, they can know what I think on any given subject. So, this matter of beliefs and identity. Back in 1925, in Baltimore, the Johns Hopkins University, a physics professor wanted to demonstrate liquid air. Now, liquid air is a combination of mostly nitrogen, partially oxygen, and just a modicum of argon. And what he did was he tipped the beaker of liquid air to his mouth, and he held it in his mouth, and he blew out a jet of steam. And then he explained to his students that at a very low temperature, liquid air turns into, or it just dissolves into steam. It breaks down like that. I don't know a lot about it, so I don't know if I'm explaining that well. But he asked if anybody else wanted to come up and try this experiment. A sophomore by the name of Joseph Phillips stepped up to the stage. He wanted to try it. But instead of just tipping the beaker to his lips and taking in a mouthful of liquid air, he didn't just hold it in his mouth, he actually swallowed it. Swallowed all of it. This has an adverse effect because it begins to expand as it breaks down at such a low temperature. It began to gag and to it had such an adverse effect upon him that everybody was scared. Everybody in the classroom was scared of what was going to happen to him next. What was going to happen with this expanding liquid air? What was this going to do to him? As he was gagging and choking, his physics professor told him to open up his mouth, and as soon as he opened up his mouth, all of this liquid air immensely poured out in a frothy fomenting kind of a way. Poured, it just billowed out of his mouth, and he was fine. He recovered. What can we learn from that? What can we learn from that after what I've just said? Well, where I'm going with this, and what I hope that you can glean from all of it, is that there are people out there who do not question enough of what they believe. They don't have a good foundation to begin with. They don't have a good foundation. They may not have been brought up in a home that encouraged a strong belief system. Now, it doesn't matter whether you agree with mine and I agree with you. I mean, I think, to me, if we were just talking about what we believe, it might matter to me. But for the sake of this conversation, it doesn't really matter what we believed, as long as, I'm not saying at the end of the day it doesn't matter what you believe. I'm just saying that some people are not brought up with a strong belief system. And therefore, they have no way of combating something that presents itself a challenge. And by challenge, I mean somebody presents a new idea, a different opinion, a new belief, and because they've never solidified anything in their mind about what they believe, they don't question it enough. They don't ask the right questions. They're either too afraid, and you do have people who have a belief system are afraid to question anything else, and that's almost just as bad. And they're not willing to open up their minds enough to allow any new thoughts in. That's not good either. But see, the good thing about Robert Phillips was at least he stepped up to the stage to try. He just didn't handle it right. And that's what happens with people. They either will not welcome any new thoughts, any new opinions, any new beliefs. They're not willing to allow that to challenge them, or they take on the challenge and they consume it wholly. And they not only consume that, but they'll consume everything that comes their way, because they don't really know who they are. And so, what happens? Well, we saw what happened with Robert Phillips. He began to choke, to snarl and gag. And that's what people do. You might say, well, Greg, how do you mean that? Or if we're talking about people who just either are closed off to any other kind of beliefs or any other kinds of opinions, and then you have people who just take in too much. How does it look when they choke, snarl, or gag? It's real easy. It's real easy to find out. It's real easy to see. Here's what you do. You ask them what they believe. And then ask them why they believe it. See, that's all you have to do. Because the people who choke, snarl, and gag are the ones who don't really know how to answer the why of the what do they believe. They don't really know the whys. And if right now you're thinking to yourself, what do I believe? And then why do I believe it? If you can't answer that, you're choking. It's very important to know what you believe. But it's also very important to allow yourself to be open-minded enough to listen to other people's beliefs, listen to other people's opinions, because people have all sorts of ideas about life. People have beliefs about eternity. They have beliefs about spirituality. They have beliefs about how you raise your children. They have beliefs about what you do with your body or what you don't do with your body. They have beliefs about money, finances, careers, how you live your life, how you get up in the morning, ethics, morality, all sorts of things. People have beliefs about that. And there are some people who have they just have beliefs all over the place. And you usually see it, and an earmark of a lack of discipline is how that substantiates itself. So, here's the thing. If you are somebody who chokes on the why of what do you believe, start listening Start listening, seek out what you believe. Listen to other things, listen to other people. But tip the beaker to your lips, but you don't have to consume everything. You don't have to let it take you over. Give yourself time. Ask a lot of why questions. This is what 2-year-olds do. A lot of parents, when their kids are 2, they get frustrated by every time they tell their child something, or they offer a new idea, or give them an order. The child always asks, why? Why? And many parents are like, I don't want to deal with this. Stop asking me why. What's interesting is if you try to answer all of those whys, it really tells you a lot about yourself. You start to realize that either you don't know as much as you think, and you begin to choke on the answers because you don't really have any, or you find out you know more than you realized. So don't be afraid to answer the whys of the what do you believe, and then you have something to build on. And if you are somebody who already has a strong belief system, be willing to listen to others all the same. See, some people are afraid to open their mind. They're afraid that it'll poison them. It'll interject new ideas. You see, my children, they have strong beliefs. They have a strong belief system. But I don't encourage them to not open their mind. I don't try to do that at all. I tell them to listen to people, because you might find out that you're not as right as you thought you were, or you might hear a new idea, a new way of doing things, or a new way of thinking that challenges you and broadens your mind. But here's the thing: you don't always have to swallow everything that you're offered. Because if you do, you will choke and gag on that. Well, I hope I've made my point. I hope it's understood. I hope that it's not vague at all. Because basically what I've said was you have 2 different kinds of people. Those who have strong belief systems and know who they are, and those who do not and cannot figure out for the life of themselves who they really are. Both people need to have an open mind. One person can be greatly influenced by, both people can be greatly influenced by it and greatly benefited by it, as long as they don't swallow everything like Robert Phillips did. You may just have to, if you realize you've taken in too much and you're choking and gagging, you can't answer the whys, open your mind. Let some of these things foment out. Let these plumes of toxic thinking just pour out and start building on new ones. Be willing to throw away bad ideas, bad beliefs. Don't be afraid to admit that you're wrong about something. Don't be afraid to find out that something you believed all along might not be true. It's called growth. That's part of being an adult. And unfortunately, there's a lot of adults who aren't very adult when it comes to that. Well, I probably talked too long. I hope this was of some benefit to you. I hope my point has been understood. If you've liked this video, hit the thumbs up. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.